Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, everybody. It is Saturday, October 25th. Hope you're doing awesome. And in this video, we're going to be discussing Tilray brands adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet as a treasury asset. So I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions, what I think of them buying Bitcoin. I had a lot of people asking me about this, and I've talked about it in the past where I said I wouldn't be happy if they did, but I'll give my thoughts and opinions on this because my overall opinion on it has changed, and it has to do with the circumstances. So we'll discuss all of that and more. Before we do, make sure to smash the like. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. And as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. And full disclosure, I do own Tilray. It's my largest portfolio holding in my MJ portfolio. And I want to just start off and preface by saying the fact that, I do follow crypto quite extensively. Obviously, this is a MJ-centric channel, but as you can see, Pursuit of Wealth Group, investing and trading community, specializing in MJ stocks, secondly, cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So it's really music to my ears at the end of the day, and goes to show you the sign of the times and where the world is heading, right? Payments, overall, that is where we're going, and crypto's going to make payments that much more cheaper, faster, right? Like it's going to be a fraction of a penny to send a payment versus, some of these merchant fees that you have with credit cards. It ends up it gets pretty ridiculous, right? So that's where the world is going. That's where the puck is going. And I think it's overall a good thing that they're focused on innovation and adapting to where the world is going. And if you haven't seen my interview, this is the second interview that I did with Erwin Simon, CEO of Tilray Brands, posted it 2 days ago. Already got over 12,000 views. Wasn't my first one, won't be the last. So you can check this out. He talks a little bit more about their Bitcoin and crypto strategy. So if you haven't seen that, you can check it out. But as you can see here on their recent Q1 2026 earnings, on their balance sheet, you can see there's a line item for digital assets, $992,000. So essentially they bought about $1 million, and I assume it's because of maybe a fee or something like that, but not 100% sure. I was going to ask more follow-up questions to crypto, but we ran short on time, so we didn't have a whole lot of time for the interview. But like I said, won't be the last interview. It wasn't the first, won't be the last. So we'll have to have them on again in the future. But you can see that was from their first quarter fiscal 2026 results. And I just want to remind everybody, we'll go through the pros and cons in just a moment, and then I'll give my overall thoughts and opinions. But, Tilray isn't the first to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. There's tons of companies, left, right, and center. Mr. Beast is getting into to crypto now, right? So this is mainstream. This is the critical mass adoption phase. And the top 10 public companies with Bitcoin, obviously MicroStrategy comes to mind. They've got over 632,000 Bitcoin in reserve, equivalent to more than 68 billion, or more than 3% of the total number of Bitcoin that will ever be issued. So obviously, that's a lot more than $1 million. And I think that's the biggest reason why I wasn't too, disgruntled by the whole fact that they did this. But you can see there's Marathon Digital, you got 21, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company, Bullish, Metaplanet, you've got Riot Platforms. Anyways, there's Trump Media and Technology Group, CleanSpark, Coinbase. And then if you go over, I'll actually share this first. KPMG Canada was the latest firm to add Bitcoin Ether to balance sheet. So it's happening all over, every sector. And they're looking beyond investments. The firm is looking to enable institutional participation in Web3. That was all the way back in February 2022, folks. And then you can go here to bitcointreasuries.net, and it gives you the top 100 public Bitcoin treasury companies. And you can see here how much they hold. 640,000 for Strategy, Mara only 53,000. But those are all of the list of them. You got Tesla on there, right? Block, which is another big one as well. You got GameStop. So it's a long list, and we've got a lot of other companies that are adding. It's not just that. There's Solana, there's Ethereum. Look at Tom Lee recently and how big of an Ethereum bull he's been. And they're the company that he's been. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's not coming to my mind. But not a big deal. Just Google it. And there's also Vivo Power. There's tons of companies adding XRP to their balance sheet and as a treasury asset. You can see here Vivo Power announces XRP-focused digital asset treasury strategy. US 121 million private placement. So again, $1 million is kind of a drop in the bucket, if you will. So we'll discuss what I think of this. So overall, we'll go through the pros and the cons, and we'll start with the pros because I do think that there's more pros than cons. So My first overall thought is that there's a fiduciary duty here by the company, by Tilray Brands, right? They can't just go investing in whatever they want. They have shareholders to adhere to, and auditors, and regulatory bodies. So they do have a fiduciary duty. And then you want to just overall look at where the puck is going. And I love the fact that these are the two hottest sectors right now, in my opinion. You got AI, blockchain, and crypto, and MJ, right? Those are going to be probably the prominent sectors in the decades to come. But let me know, we'll go through the pros and the cons. Let me know if there's anything that you agree with, disagree with. And then, like I said, we'll wrap it up here at the end, and I'll give my overall thoughts and opinions. So we'll start with the pros. First off, it's minimal risk exposure, right? It's only $1 million. So I don't mind that they bought that much worth of Bitcoin. It's not a huge amount, and it's not like they were issuing shares to buy a bunch of Bitcoin or using leverage, right? Whereas MicroStrategy, there's a lot of controversy on, kind of how they're approaching it, right? They're very leveraged, they're taking on high debt loads, and they don't really have the revenue in terms of their operations to support that. So it's a little bit of a Ponzi scheme, in my opinion, and it could end up being really, really good or really, really bad, right? So I do like the fact that that Tilray was kind of taking a disciplined approach to it, and not a high degen approach. Another pro is that Bitcoin's highly liquid, and he mentioned that in the interview as well. If they want to get out, then they have the liquidity to do so, right? And it's only $1 million, so it's not like you're trying to unload billions and billions. Also, it's indirect exposure to Bitcoin, so it's going to protect from dollar debasement. It's a potential hedge as well, inflation hedge, asset diversification. But like I said, people who are buying, the Tilray stock, you're now diversified into the crypto space as well, because they have it on their balance sheet, which means you have indirect exposure to that. So that's pretty sweet. And you can also add it to a registered plan. So you're getting indirect exposure to crypto, just like MicroStrategy, if you will, like a proxy. But you can also add them in registered plans, so you can benefit from no tax, right? For tax-free savings account, or a Roth IRA, or any kind of registered plan like a 401k or an RRSP. So you're benefiting that way. Also, the potential for capital appreciation. Obviously, we have major market structure and clarity act on the horizon, which is essentially the Telecommunications Act and moment for the internet that happened in 1996. That's what we're seeing now for the Internet of Value versus the Internet of Information. So there's more than likely a ton of growth ahead as we see clear rules of the road. And that's going to be, in my opinion, a major catalyst for huge growth and appreciation. Also, adoption of modern accounting standards and the green light from auditors. So we mentioned that in the video as well, that they can't just go buying any asset, right? It has to be greenlit by the auditors, and it signals that the company is focused on innovation and enhanced liquidity as well. So it's going to, like, potential investors that buy Tilray, it's going to be like they talked about maybe even using Bitcoin to buy Tilray stock, right? And tokenizing their stock. And they talked about accepting Bitcoin for purchases, etc., their e-commerce and their brew pubs, to name a few. Also, tax efficiency potential. It boosts investor sentiment, and it could potentially attract new investors. And basically a strategic reserve, right, that can open up future growth opportunities. So we'll switch to the cons. There's not a whole lot, but first and foremost, the elephant in the room is we don't know who created Bitcoin, right? No, we still don't know who. I still think it was the U.S. government, right? Tucker Carlson came out recently and said he believes it's the CIA that created it. I agree. Raoul Pal said it was the combination between the U.S. agencies and intelligence agencies and the U.K. in coercion. I believe it's probably a multiple kind of government thing that happened. It didn't get created by some guy in his basement, I know that. Some libertarian guy. And then the whole world's just adopting it, right? It happened right after the financial crisis. It happened ever since Nixon, right? When they took us off the gold standard in the late 70s, or into the 70s. I think it was 71. That's when they basically were planning the collapse of the dollar, right? Because no fiat currency backed by nothing has ever stood the test of time. They've all failed, right? If it's backed by nothing. So in my opinion, that was a controlled collapse, and it happened ever since they removed it from the gold standard. So not knowing who created Bitcoin, and like I should have brought up the clip there with Tucker Carlson, but imagine investing in Apple and not knowing who the founder was, right? Like he's like, some people don't don't care about this. And he's like, I very much care. And same thing here. That's why I don't own any Bitcoin anymore. I sold it, bought it at around 3,000, sold it at 50,000. Could have made, it went over to 100,000, right? Could have made a lot more. But I rotated that Bitcoin when I sold it at 50,000 into other alts, and I made a lot more money, like XRP and XLM and HBAR, to name a few. So, I don't like that we don't know who created Bitcoin, but personally, I don't think we probably never will find out. There's a video of Homeland Security. They met with the 4 Satoshis. So it's believed that there's 4 Satoshis, right? There's 4 people, and it's a group of people we just don't know, right? So, and we probably never will. Upside may be limited as well with Bitcoin near all-time highs. Like even if it goes to 200, 300,000, that's only going to turn their $1 million into a couple million, maybe a few $1 million, right? So there's a lot more risk to the downside, in my opinion. But again, it's only $1 million, and the company has $265 million on their worth of cash. So it's just a drop in the bucket. So I'm happy that they didn't go, balls to the walls. High volatility risk, obviously, regulatory uncertainty. There's opportunity cost versus paying down their debt, etc. An accounting complexity kind of, I don't think there'd be that much accounting complexities, to be honest. I mean, they hire a third party to do their accounting anyway, and I'm sure they're all over it. And there's potential. Some people say it could be a distraction from their core business, but he did say, Erwin Simon, straight for the horse's mouth, said that they don't want to be a crypto company. They did mention that they might be looking at like AI data centers for their max usage of the space in their facilities. And they got into like vegetables and things like that. But, you could also say it's a reputational risk as well. Imagine if it was a terrorist group that created Bitcoin, right? We find out it's North Korea or something like that. We just don't know. So but again, it's only $1 million. So the company does have a fiduciary duty. They have to adhere to regulations and the auditors. But let me know what you think of this in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation there. Is there like anything that you didn't think of, that I didn't say, that you can think of, pro or a con? What's your overall opinion on this? Do you think it was a good thing, a bad thing? Always love hearing from you. And I did mention in the interview as well that I was like, have you looked into XRP at all? And what was the criteria that you use when evaluating these cryptos and these opportunities? And I did mention XRP would be a great addition because XRP, yes, it's getting near all-time highs, but it's been basically held back by the U.S. SEC, right? The Securities and Exchange Commission and the U.S. government, choke point 2.0. So I do think that XRP could easily go to, $50, $100, maybe even $1,000 someday. Whereas, even if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, that's only a 10x, right? If XRP were to do 10x, that's $20. And I think $20 is cheap for XRP. And XRP was going through a lawsuit as well, which we know was basically wrapped up and dropped. So they dropped the appeals, and they're winding that up. So XRP is technically the only crypto in the world, in the U.S., but the only crypto in the world in the U.S. that has regulatory certainty, right? That has a legal distinction. Not even Bitcoin or Ethereum have that through case law or legislation, right? XRP has case law, and the judge said, in and of itself, it is not a security, okay? So I did mention, like I said in the video, XRP, it's built for payments, so they talked about accepting it for payments. Why not look into XRP? It has legal clarity, it's been battle tested, went through the regulatory gauntlet, and it was deemed in and of itself not a security. And like I said, a lot of upside, fraction of a penny, settles in 3 to 5 seconds, and yeah, it's purpose-built for payments. So he said that they didn't really hear about XRP. He doesn't have XRP, doesn't really know what it is, didn't really look into it. But he said, I can assure you that our team is all over that, like white on rice, essentially, right? So who knows? Maybe they'll add a few more. They did mention that Solana and Ethereum on the earnings call. They might be looking at adding those as well. But again, same thing applies. At least we know who created Solana and Ethereum, but there's a lot of ties to CCP to Ethereum. There was the disguised whales back in the day, so there's a whole other can of worms that you can open there. And personally, I don't agree with how Ethereum the ICO was done, and just not a good look. And Solana, the network goes down like more times than I can count. So I don't know. And like I said, Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, they've all seen such high price appreciation that I would say the upside is limited and a little bit more risk versus reward. Whereas I think XRP has a ton of growth ahead, and it's probably, in my opinion, going to be the most valuable digital asset in the planet. I think Ripple, the company, not the digital asset, not to be conflated, I think Ripple will become the Amazon of crypto. They just announced that they acquired G Treasury and they rebranded it to Ripple Prime. So if that's not reminding you of the Amazon of crypto, I don't know what will. But mark my words, when it's all said and done, given enough time, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 years, you heard it here first. Ripple will be the most valuable company on the planet, and XRP will be the most valuable digital asset on the planet. And I would want nothing more than Tilray to come out and say that they add XRP as well as a treasury asset to their balance sheet, because I think that one would offer the most upside. But again, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and we'll continue the conversation in the comment section below. All right, have a great rest of your weekend. It's Rod with the Pow Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth. We'll catch you on the next one.